down in Mississippi, well, back in the day, down in the South, after the Civil Rights Act was passed, in 1964 was the Civil Rights Act, 65 was the Voting Rights Act, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm pretty sure I am. Back in the day when that was passed, one of the ways that southern states, in this case specifically Mississippi, because they're following through on this again, one of the ways that they got around the fact that black people could now vote, and I mean literally you went from, like in many of your southern states, you had black voter registration numbers below 10%, in the single digits. My recollection is it was like 7% in South Carolina, around 5% in Alabama, just very, very low. It was very hard for black people to register to vote back then. And then post-1965, when black people could vote, they started showing up in large numbers. So what did a lot of white-controlled communities that had large black populations, this would be towns and counties, what did they do? How'd they handle this? They did away with their elections. They changed judges, city council members, just a whole spectrum of people from being elected to being appointed so that they could continue appointing just white people to those jobs. And this is a big thing in the 60s. And like I said, many states did this. Well, guess what? They're up to it again. This is a new piece of legislation that has to do with Jackson, Mississippi. It was introduced by a Republican in the Mississippi legislature. His name is Trey Lamar. He did not respond to interview requests about it, but it passed the Mississippi House of Representatives yesterday, 76-38, largely on party lines, and it's going to the Republican-controlled Senate. It's almost certainly going to pass in the Senate. So what does this do? It creates two new districts within Jackson, Mississippi, which is 80% black. The town is 80% black. And these two new districts have their own police, their own district attorneys, their own judges. They're basically like autonomous groups, and they are no longer elected. They are all appointed. These are new judicial districts, 2 judges, 2 prosecutors, 2 new public defenders. The judges would be appointed by Mississippi's Chief Supreme Court Justice Michael Randolph, a white conservative, white Republican. The prosecutors would be appointed by the State Attorney General, Lynn Fitch, who is a white Republican. The district would be policed with an expansion of the Mississippi Capitol Police, whose Chief Bo Luckey is white, in a role appointed by the Mississippi Commissioner of Public Safety, Sean Chindel, who is also white. The director of the Solang MacArthur Justice Center said, quote, "No serious person can look at this map and data and claim the proposed boundaries aren't drawn to make sure as many white Jacksonians as possible get the benefit of their own special police force and a court filled with hand-picked white judges and prosecutors." 82% of Jackson's residents are black. But this district would be basically all white. Only 5,000 white people in Jackson, Mississippi would not be part of one of these 2 new districts. So basically they carved out the white areas and gave them their own, and they're going to get away with this. This is the kind of stuff that the Supreme Court allows because they gutted the Civil Rights Act. Had the Civil Rights Act not been gutted, particularly sections 4 and 5, the pre-clearance sections, had that not been gutted by 5 Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court, this would be illegal. This is blatantly discriminatory, policing practices, judicial practices, administrative practices, governmental practices. It's blatantly racial. And yet, according to our Supreme Court, according to 5 Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court, this is almost certainly going to be legal.